A budget is a financial plan that estimates future income and expenses over a specific period. For a nation, a government budget is a detailed statement of its anticipated revenues, primarily from taxes, duties, and non-tax sources like fees, dividends, and borrowings, and expenditures on various public services, infrastructure, defense, social welfare, and debt servicing for a fiscal year. It serves as a roadmap for the government's financial activities, reflecting its economic and social priorities. Types of budgets. For a government, budgets are typically categorized based on their fiscal stance. 1. Balanced budget. Definition: when estimated government revenues are equal to its estimated expenditures for a fiscal year. Implication: it implies fiscal discipline and that the government is living within its means. 2. Surplus budget. Definition: when estimated government revenues are greater than its estimated expenditures. Implication: the government has more money than it plans to spend. This surplus can be used to repay national debt, build up reserves, or fund future projects without borrowing, often implemented during inflationary periods to reduce aggregate demand. 3. Deficit budget. Definition: when estimated government expenditures are greater than its estimated revenues. Implication: the government plans to spend more than it earns. This deficit is typically financed by borrowing, e.g., through issuing government bonds or by drawing down reserves. Deficit budgets are often employed during economic recessions to stimulate demand and create employment. Beyond the fiscal stance, budgets can also be classified by their operational focus. Revenue budget or operating current budget deals with the government's current receipts, tax and non-tax revenues, and current expenditures on day-to-day running of government, salaries, subsidies, interest payments. Capital budget or investment budget deals with capital receipts like borrowings, disinvestments, recovery of loans, and capital expenditures on creating assets like roads, railways, buildings, or investments in shares. Cash flow budget focuses on the actual cash inflows and outflows over a short period, ensuring liquidity. Performance budgeting focuses on achieving specific outcomes or targets with allocations tied to the performance of various government programs. Zero-based budgeting (ZBB) requires every department to justify its entire budget request from scratch, rather than just justifying increases over previous budgets. This forces a critical review of all expenditures. Gender budgeting analyzes the government budget from a gender perspective to assess its impact on women and men, aiming to promote gender equality. Historical context of budget in a financial year of India. The concept of a formal budget was introduced in India on April 7, 1860, by James Wilson, a Scottish economist and politician who was then the finance member of the East India Company's Council. This marked the beginning of a systematic approach to public finance in India under British colonial rule. The financial year in India has traditionally run from April 1st to March 31st Street. This practice was inherited from the British system after India gained independence in 1947. The first Union Budget of independent India was presented on November 26, 1947, by the first Finance Minister, R.K. Shanmukham Chetty. This was an interim budget for the remaining part of the financial year. In the early post-independence years, the budget focused on immediate necessities like rehabilitation and reconstruction, and later, it became a strategic tool for economic planning, aligning with the five-year plans, starting from 1951. Throughout history, Indian budgets have reflected the economic challenges and priorities of the time, from self-reliance and industrialization in the early decades to liberalization in the 1990s and inclusive growth and fiscal consolidation in the 21st century. Historically, the Union Budget was presented on the last working day of February. However, from 2017, the budget presentation was advanced to February 1st to allow more time for parliamentary approval and for ministries to implement schemes from the beginning of the financial year, April 1st. Another significant change in 2017 was the merger of the railway budget with the union budget, ending a 92-year-old practice of presenting a separate budget for the Indian Railways. Origin of the word budget. The word budget has an interesting etymology. It comes from the Old French word bougette, which meant small leather bag or pouch. In English, budget initially referred to a physical bag or wallet. Over time, it evolved to mean the contents of the bag, particularly papers or documents. By the 18th century, in Britain, it was used to refer to the financial statement that the Chancellor of the Exchequer would literally unpack from a bag in Parliament. The satirical pamphlet, The Budget Opened, 1733, is credited with popularizing its use in a financial context where it referred to a spending plan. Eventually, the term came to refer to the financial plan itself rather than the physical container for the papers. Advantages and disadvantages of a budget for a nation. Advantages. 1. Financial planning and control. Provides a clear roadmap for government spending and revenue collection, ensuring funds are allocated efficiently to priority areas. 2. Resource allocation helps in directing resources towards essential public services, infrastructure development, social welfare programs, and economic growth drivers. 3. Fiscal discipline encourages the government to live within its means, manage debt, and avoid excessive spending. 4. Economic management acts as a tool for macroeconomic management. Governments can use fiscal policy through budget adjustments to stimulate economic growth, control inflation, or address unemployment. 5. Transparency and accountability lays out the government's financial plans for public scrutiny, promoting accountability and allowing citizens to understand how their taxes are being used. 6. Predictability for businesses provides a degree of predictability for businesses regarding tax policies, government spending, and economic direction, aiding their investment decisions. 7. International confidence. A well-managed budget demonstrates fiscal responsibility, which can enhance a nation's creditworthiness and attract foreign investment. Disadvantages. 1. Rigidity. Once approved, budgets can be rigid. Unexpected economic shocks, e.g., natural disasters, global crises, or changes in priorities, may require amendments, which can be time-consuming. 2. Forecasting challenges. Economic forecasting is inherently uncertain. Inaccurate revenue or expenditure estimates can lead to significant deviations from the budget, causing fiscal imbalances. 3. Political influence. Budget decisions are often influenced by political considerations, which may lead to populist spending or inefficient resource allocation rather than purely economic logic. 4. Bureaucracy and inefficiency. The process of budget formulation and execution can be highly bureaucratic, leading to delays and inefficiencies. 5. Focus on short-term. Annual budgets may sometimes lead to a short-term focus, neglecting long-term strategic investments or reforms that have delayed benefits. 6. Potential for deficits. If not managed carefully, budget deficits can lead to increased national debt, higher interest payments, and potential macroeconomic instability. 7. Overestimation, underestimation. Departments might overestimate their funding needs to ensure they receive enough, or underestimate costs to get projects approved. What's budget management? Budget management refers to the comprehensive process of planning, monitoring, and controlling a budget to achieve financial objectives. For a nation, it involves 1. Budget formulation. Developing the financial plan, including estimating revenues and allocating expenditures based on government policies and priorities. 2. Budget implementation execution. Putting the budget into action, releasing funds to various ministries and departments, and ensuring that spending occurs as planned. 3. Budget monitoring and control. continuously tracking actual revenues and expenditures against the budgeted figures, identifying variances, and taking corrective actions when necessary. 4. Budget reporting and evaluation. Reporting on financial performance to legislative bodies and the public, and evaluating the effectiveness and efficiency of government spending programs. Effective budget management aims to optimize resource allocation, ensure fiscal sustainability, achieve policy goals, and promote transparency and accountability in public finance. What type of budget is good for the economy? There is no single best type of budget for all economic conditions. The ideal budget type depends on the prevailing economic situation, the stage of development, and the specific goals a nation aims to achieve. 1. Balanced budget. Good when the economy is stable, growing moderately, and there is no immediate need for significant fiscal stimulus or contraction. It promotes fiscal discipline and long-term sustainability. Less good when, during a recession or economic downturn, as it might restrict necessary government spending to stimulate the economy. 2. Surplus budget. Good when the economy is experiencing high inflation or is overheating. A surplus can help cool down demand by withdrawing money from the economy. It's also good for debt reduction and building fiscal buffers for future crises. Less good when, during a recession, as it would further reduce demand and deepen the downturn. It could also imply overtaxation, potentially stifling private investment. 3. Deficit budget. Good when the economy is in a recession, experiencing high unemployment, or facing an urgent need for infrastructure development. Government spending can provide a much-needed fiscal stimulus, boosting demand, creating jobs, and encouraging private investment. It's often suitable for developing economies that need significant investment in public goods. Less good when, during periods of high inflation or economic boom, as it can overheat the economy further. Persistent large deficits can lead to unsustainable public debt, higher interest rates, and a crowding out effect on private investment. In essence, a good budget is one that is counter-cyclical, meaning it acts against the current economic cycle, e.g., deficit spending during a recession, surplus during a boom. Sustainable, ensures that public debt remains manageable in the long run. Growth-oriented, allocates resources to productive investments, infrastructure, education, health, R&D, that foster long-term economic growth. Equitable, addresses social inequalities and provides a safety net for vulnerable populations. Transparent and accountable, clearly communicates government priorities and allows for public scrutiny. Many economists advocate for cyclically adjusted budgets, where the government aims for a balanced budget over the full business cycle, allowing for temporary deficits during downturns and surpluses during upturns. This approach provides flexibility for economic management while ensuring long-term fiscal prudence.